Hey.
Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we'll be reading from chapter 1, text number 8, starting with text 8. Bhavandismascha karnascha kripascha samatigyaya Ashvatama vikarnascha somadatis. Translation: There are personalities like yourself, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashvatama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle. Text 9. Anyecha bahava sura madarte takta jivitaha Nana shastra praharana sarve yudha visharadaha. Translation: There are many other heroes who are prepared to lie down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and are all experienced in military science. Text 10. Aparyaptam tarasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tvahidam etesham balam bhima virakshitam. Translation: Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Text 11. Ayaneshu te sarveshu yata bhagham avastitaha Bhishmameva virakshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi. Translation: Now all of you must give full support to grandfather Bhishma, standing at your respective strategic points in the phalanx of the army. Text 12. Tasya sanjayanam harsham kuru vridha pitamaha Singhanadam vinadhyochai sankyam dhadmo pratapavan. Translation: Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly like the sound of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. Text 13. Tata shankastaberyascha panavanaka gomukaha sahasaiva vyahanyanta sashabdastu mulobhuvat. Translation: After that, the conch shells, bugles, trumpets, drums, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. Text 14. Tata shvetarha yukte mahati sandhane sthito madhava pandavaschaiva divyo shankyo pradadmatu. Translation: On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Text 15. Panchajanyam hrishikesho devadattam dhananjaya pundram dadmo mahashankam bhima karma vrido vikodaraha. Translation: Then Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pundram. Text 16 through 18. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putra Yudhishthira Nakula Sahadevascha Sugosha Manipushpako Kashyascha Parameshvasa Shikhandi cha Maharataha Drishtadyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Parajitaha Drupado Dropadeyascha Sarvasha Prithivipate Sobhadrascha Mahagahu Sankyan Dadmo Pritak Pritak. Translation. King Yudhisthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijay, and Nakula and Sahadev blew the Sugoshan Mani Pushpaka. That great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter, Shikhandi, Drishtadyumna, Virata, and the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the others, O king, such as the sons of Subhadra, greatly armed, all blew their respective conch shells. Text 19. Sugosho Dartarastranam Hridayani Vyadarayat Navascha Prithivim Chaiva Tumulo Vyanudayanam. Translation. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, and thus vibrating both in the sky and on the earth, it shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Last one, text 20. Ata vyavastitan drishtva dhartarastran kapitrajaha pravrite shastra sampate dano udhyamya pandavaha hrishikesham tada bhakyam idamaha mahipate. Translation. O king, at that time Arjuna, the son of Pandu, who was seated in his chariot, his flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. Looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra, O king, Arjuna then spoke to Rishikesha, Krishna, these words. Back to text 8. There are personalities like yourself, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle. Purport. Duryodhana mentioned the exceptional heroes in the battle, all of whom are ever victorious. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhana. Ashwatthama is the son of Dronacharya. And Somadatti, or Bhurishrava, is the son of the king of the Balikas. Karna is the half-brother of Arjuna, as he was born of Kunti before her marriage with King Pandu. Kripacharya married the twin sister of Dronacharya. So we're getting some background information about the personalities, the historical events that took place that surround the Bhagavad Gita, context for the narrative that's going on here. So the Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters out of the Mahabharata, which is a great epic. It's the greatest epic in the world. And everybody accepts that, actually, not just the devotees. Everyone accepts that. The Mahabharata is the greatest piece of literature there is. In terms of scale, magnitude, and knowledge, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of all knowledge, is contained within the Mahabharata. And Vyasadeva initially compiled the Mahabharata for Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras, that the women, the Shudras, the lowborn personalities, that they could understand the Vedic knowledge through the narrative of the Mahabharata, which is historical. So it's nice. Of course, it was taking place at a time when, from our perspective, things might seem a little fantastical, but they're not. It's just at a different time when humans had different capabilities and whatnot, So this Mahabharata contains a lot of information. Like I said, it's the greatest epic. So there's I don't know the exact amount of shlokas in there, but it's like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands. I'm not sure. Anyways. So this Bhagavad Gita is taking place within that one. And Mahabharata is actually named after Bharat Maharaj, who's the great emperor of the world, and Bharatvarsha, the whole world is named after him. Bharatvarsha. So Bharat Maharaj, Mahabharat means the great Bharat. Also refers to, this is the history of this world. But it's also in reference to Bharat Maharaj, because the personalities that we're reading about right now are descending in his dynasty. Particularly the Pandavas and the Kurus, basically the Kurus, the Kauravas. The Pandavas happen to be 5 members of the Kurus that are exceptional. They stand out as being the rightful heir of the rightful heirs of the dynasty, as well as the pure devotees of the Lord amongst those individuals, amongst the family. So there's a lot of information that's given. Personalities. In the first verse we hear about first of all, Bhishma, grandfather Bhishma. He's a very important personality. Grandfather Bhishma is known as the greatest brahmachari because he actually took a vow, in his youth, to remain celibate for his whole life, to honor his father's desire to basically. His father, Shantanu, is a direct descendant of Bharat Maharaj. Maybe even his son, the son of Bharat Maharaj, or a grandson at least. And Shantanu Maharaj, his first wife was Ganga Devi, so the goddess of the river Ganga, and there was an arrangement that they had that we will stay together. Ganga Devi basically made this arrangement that she will stay with Shantanu Maharaj so long as every time they had a child, she would be allowed to discard of the child in the river and he would be totally okay with it. So then they had a child, Shantanu, or Bhishma. And Bhishma is also called Gangeya, meaning he comes from the Ganges, he's the son of the Ganges. And then Shantanu couldn't tolerate this. So he questioned his wife, don't kill my son, And then so he preferred to take his son, and then she left him. And then over some time, Shantanu Maharaj wanted another wife, and they had encountered this beautiful Satyavati, who was the daughter of a fisherman. And he wanted to marry her, Shantanu wanted to marry her. And so they asked the fisherman, and basically the fisherman wasn't exactly taking a liking to the proposal because Shantanu had a son already, Bhishma Dev, and the son of Bhishma Dev obviously is going to take the throne at some point. So he wanted his daughter to marry Shantanu's son. So then, basically, Bhishma Dev, to honor his father's desire to marry this woman, he said, well, don't worry, I've taken a lifelong vow of celibacy. So the child, basically my brother, Bhishma Dev's brother from Satyavati and his father, he will be the king. You don't have to worry. So then they agreed. And Satyavati and Shantanu had a son named Vichitravirya, who is Bhishma Dev's half-brother. Okay, so those are two big personalities. There's a third important personality, Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva comes in from Satyavati. So before Satyavati's arrangement with Shantanu, before they had Vichitravirya, she had a son with a sage named Parashara Muni. And that son was Vyasadeva. So, like that, Bhishma Dev has a half-brother Vichitravirya and a half-brother or Vichitravira has a half-brother, Vyasadeva. So, Vichitravira was the king, and he had passed away untimely, and he had 3 queens, and obviously Bhishma Dev was a brahmachari, so he couldn't beget children in the wives of his brother, which was a custom in the Vedic times then. So they called upon Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva was an ascetic. He's not the kingly type, Kshatriya. He's a Brahmana, he's an ascetic. So they summoned him from his tapasya in the Himalayan mountains to beget children within the wives of Vichitravira, his half-brother. And so then there were 3 queens, so he begot 3 children. The first one is Dhritarashtra, then there was Vidura, and then there was Pandu. So from Dhritarashtra comes 100 sons that make up the Kuru dynasty. Duryodhana and his brothers. And Dhritarashtra's wife is Gandhari, who we were hearing about actually a little bit ago from Srila Prabhupada on Friday, when he was talking about Gandhari being the epitome of a chaste wife. Dhritarashtra was actually born blind because at the time of conception, when Vyasadeva was begetting the child in the womb of the queen was so scared of Vyasadeva's appearance because he came in a very disheveled manner, because he was coming from the Himalayan mountains. Describes how dirty, in the Mahabharata describes how dirty he was, very, unsightly personality. So she closed her eyes. And he was a little just offended by that, so he had cursed that, okay, then your son will be born blind. Therefore, he's really not fit to be the king. So, okay, Dhritarashtra's wife Gandhari, so we were hearing about this. So Gandhari, she was so chaste to her husband that she put on a blindfold, for her whole life, because she didn't want to be above him in any way. She didn't want that, so she chose to remain below him. By blindfolding herself. And then there's Pandu, who's Dhritarashtra's brother. Pandu, at some point he got cursed, so he had 2 queens. One was Kunti, which we hear about. Krishna constantly refers to Arjuna as, O son of Kunti. So that's Arjuna's mother, Kunti. His father is Pandu. Those are called the Pandavas. So Pandu had 2 wives, Madri and Kunti, and at some point Pandu was cursed because it's a custom of the Kshatriyas that obviously they use violence and anger to fight on behalf of religious principles. It's called Dharma Yuddha, religious war. So that's the intention of war. That's the real intention of war. The real intention of a Kshatriya is to defend the religious principles against those demoniac personalities. So they have to engage in violence. So it's a custom for them to go out and hunt, and like that they get, they get to exert their bloodthirstiness when they're not engaging in battle. So the Kshatriya kings would often go out and hunt, and they would like that they could practice the art of killing. And so one time Pandu was going out hunting, and at the time there were 2 deer, and they were engaging in their sexual intercourse, and he had shot the elk or the male deer and killed him or shot him with the arrow and had realized that that deer was actually a sage, a great sage, who was just disguising himself and engaging in this activity with his wife. And so while that sage was dying from the arrow, he cursed Pandu that you'll suffer the same fate. So if you have sex, then you'll die, basically. So basically that's what happened. He was with his wives, and he was with Madri particularly, and he was overcome with lusty feelings for her, and he did it, and he died. And she went with him, being the chaste wife that she was. She performed the sati, yogya. What's it called? You know what it's called? There's a name for it. Where the wife, typically the chaste wife, will, if her husband dies, she'll be so distraught that she'll jump into the funeral pyre with him. It's not necessarily a injunction at all. It's just something that a chaste wife does out of attachment to her husband. It's a phenomenon that is observed. So that happened, and Kunti had a boon. His other wife, Pandu's other wife, had a boon from Durvasa Muni, I believe, that she could call upon. She could use a mantra, a special mantra, 5 times, and invoke particular demigod, and she could beget a child from that demigod. So basically, she used that. She begot Bhima, or I don't remember who's first, Bhima or Yudhisthira Maharaj, I'm not sure. But Yudhisthira Maharaj came from Yamaraj, and then Bhima from Vayu, and Arjuna from Indra. And at first, she had used this boon without really intentionally thinking about it, and she called upon the sun god, and she had a child, Karna, who is the second personality mentioned in this verse, particularly here. So Karna. And because she wasn't married at the time, she rejected the child because she didn't want, obviously, her status to be ruined. So he went on to be adopted by a Shudra, and so he grew up with this, kind of always hanging above him. I'm the son of a Shudra. Of course, he's an exceptional fighter. He's very powerful, and he was born with full armor and earrings, and he was effulgent like the god of the sun. So, anyways, I think he was the first one. So then she rejected him. She was married to Pandu, and because he couldn't have sons, she used this to beget the Pandavas. And okay, I take it back. It's not that there was a limit for 5, because she used it 6 times, I believe. At least for Sahadev and Nakula, which we also heard about in the series of verses, she had. I think maybe she had given the mantra to Madri, and she begot those 2. I could be wrong, but anyways. So those are the Pandavas. And Kripacharya, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Parishraval. These are some personalities who are. These personalities are siding on the Kuru's side at the time of the battle, but these are personalities who they grew up. The Pandavas all grew up alongside these personalities. Ashwatthama is the son of Dronacharya, who is the martial arts guru of the Kuru dynasty. And so that's a little bit of the backstory. Let's keep going. Let's go into the next text 9. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lie down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and are all experienced in military science. Purport. As far as the others are concerned, like Jayadratha, Kritavarma, Shalya, etc., all are determined to lie down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. In other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana. Duryodhana was of course confident of his victory on account of the above-mentioned combined strength of his friends. Yes, Prabhu?
So you've read the Mahabharata, right?
I didn't read the whole thing. I read like the first little bit of it, and that backstory is kind of nicely given in the very first like few chapters.
Okay. Do you know anything about Shalya?
Shalya, yeah, he appears in the Krishna book, doesn't he?
No, it's Shalva.
That's Shalva. Oh, Shalya.
Yeah, he's a charioteer of Krishna. I'm not trying to like. I'm not trying to like
please.
steal your thunder, but I had a question about him, so. But
does he have a flying machine? Is that I'm thinking of the one?
does he have what?
Does he have like a flying machine?
I don't know.
Okay. Yes. You want to speak about him or? You know a little about him? You want to speak? You want to say something?
So why did Shalya join Duryodhana's side?
If I'm not mistaken, and maybe Maharaj or Krishna do, maybe they're listening and would like to correct me or chime in, but Shalya was on his way to fight, and there were like expert accommodations that were set up for him by Duryodhana, like really nice care along his travels. He was just being given everything that he wanted, to the point to where he even said, you know, man, Yudhisthira, Maharaj must have set this up for me. You know, whoever did this, I'll do whatever they want. And then at that very moment, Duryodhana appeared and was like, actually, I was the one who set all this up, and I want you to fight for me. And he did. And I think he became the Kaurava's final commander-in-chief at the later stages of the battle. So yeah, he was a really expert charioteer. But that's just a little bit that I know about.
Hi, nice. That's nectar. Yeah, there's many personalities, you know, that many names like Jayadratha here. Jayadratha is a very powerful personality. I forget what he was the king of a particular Magadha. Maybe it was Magadha. I'm not sure. Anyways, Kritavarma, I think, was the general of Krishna's army, the Yadu dynasty. Isn't that right? Kritavarma? I'm not sure. Because there was some arrangement that was made where Krishna's, like, he basically said, okay, between Duryodhana and Arjuna, you know, you can pick me or you can pick my army. Of course, Duryodhana took his army, and the Pandavas took Krishna, you know. And so I think Kritavarma was the general of Krishna's army. Anyways, next text, translation. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. Purport. Herein an estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained. Yeah, so very early on, the Kurus, Duryodhana and his brothers, Dushasana, is a very wicked personality. Dushasana is the one who's actually personally was trying to disrobe Draupadi and dragged her by the hair into the conference, the assembly of all the Kuru elders who were there, and humiliated them in front of all the elders. So that personality, Dushasana, is there, and so throughout the Mahabharata, in the early on, that there's many times where they try to kill. Specifically, I'm remembering Bhima. Like for one, Bhima is called Vrikodar in one of these verses, meaning he's voracious eater, voracious appetite, for fighting as well as for eating, And they, at one particular instance, they poisoned Bhima's food, tried to kill him that way. And then they tried to burn them alive, do so many horrible different things to them. One thing after another, after another, after another. They took away their kingdom and they took away everything. So many horrible things. But ultimately, Bhima did get his revenge, and he killed Dushasana in a very gruesome way, and he and Duryodhana as well. So, yes, Prabhuji?
Why characters like Draupadi and this person Bhima? Why are they being tortured by these other characters? Like I understand that. Yeah, why? What's happening?
Ultimately, envy. These personalities are wicked and envious. And that's the main reason. But also, one thing that's a good question, because these are devotees of the Lord, right? The main character is Pandava, the Pandavas, Bhima and Draupadi, these are all wonderful devotees of the Lord. And so, it's quite inspiring that these devotees are going through some of the most tragic and, calamity-stricken events that you can imagine. And the whole time, what are they doing? They're thinking about Krishna. They're talking about Krishna, praying to Him, depending on surrendering to Him, doing what He wants them to do, abiding by Dharma. And it's a testament to the integrity of the devotees and the how wonderful their character is. So we're able to see that firsthand in light of these tragedies, that it actually, these tragedies illumine the wonderful the wonderful qualities of the devotees. They're kind of like a contrast, like a dark background to really, illuminate really show how illumined these personalities are. Just like if you turn a flashlight on in the daylight, it's hard to see it, but if it's in the night, it's easy to, So similarly, that's a part of it. But also we see how these demonic personalities who aren't following Dharma, who have no faith in the Lord and who are envious of the Lord and His devotees, how much suffering and grief they cause others, and as well as how much anxiety they're in. The whole time they're all in anxiety. Dhritarashtra and his sons are just in anxiety the whole time. It's like Dhritarashtra in particular is like constantly being like humiliated due to his material attachment to his demonic son. The whole time these great Kuru elders, Bhishma and Vidura, are advising Dhritarashtra, and he's constantly going against their advice. And the interesting thing is he knows it too. He's constantly like so remorseful because he knows, and then he just can't help it because he's got this affection for his blood son, Duryodhana. So Duryodhana's just like, stepping all over his father and the elders, and Dhritarashtra is allowing it to happen the whole time he's in anxiety. He's so remorseful, morose. And Duryodhana too, he gets embarrassed at every second as well, due to his, greed and his envy and his anger and his deceit and his demoniac ways. So we get a very nice, like, digestible, historical narrative which really elucidates the truth of what's going on. What's going on here. With the demons and the demigods and the devotees, you know what I'm saying? It's like you really get to see that, like, the outcome of walking down this certain path and the importance of taking shelter of the Lord and His instructions under all circumstances. So this is reality, It's not that this is some like metaphor. This Mahabharata and Battle of Kurukshetra and the whole thing is a metaphor for like something. It's reality. We're living like this now. It's just a continuation. It just happened 5,000 years ago on this earth. So the same principles still apply. Those who don't follow the injunctions of the scriptures and the instructions of the Lord and abide by Dharma, they are criminals who are punished by nature and punished by the Lord, Whereas those who do walk along the path of Dharma and surrender to the Lord, they are protected and they're glorified and they attain Krishna and they get that, the supreme destination. And they're very glorious personalities. So we see that now. That's just there. Exactly what's happening now. Of course, the Mahabharata is very entertaining, That's why it's like very captivating, There's action, drama, so many things that are happening then, So it captivates the minds of Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras, those persons of the age of Kali who aren't necessarily having the capacity to understand, through studying the, Shastras, they can read the Mahabharata and this narrative and they can assimilate the conclusion of the Vedas in a way, for them. So it's very nice now that we get this. So this Bhagavad Gita is the conclusion or the climax of the Mahabharata. And the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, or the climax of the Bhagavad Gita, we read just a little bit ago in the 18th chapter, which is surrender to Krishna, which we were hearing has kind of a negative connotation, or some people think surrender has a negative connotation. In one light it does. It means like, generally in battle it means like one side is that it means you lose. But actually we hear that Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight. So surrendering to Krishna means, that if we do that, then we win. So surrender to our duty, surrender, which is ultimately surrendering to Krishna, serving Krishna, is our duty. So Krishna tells Arjuna to fight, and surrendering to that instruction means you come out victorious. Whereas if we surrender to our false ego and our mind, then yes, we will be the loser. So
That reminds me of something that Prabhupada says in Nectar of Instruction. In the third text, he's talking about patience, confidence, and enthusiasm. And he gives a great definition for confidence. Forget what he says exactly, but he essentially says that real confidence is acting on the strength of Krishna, like understanding that we can walk in full strides uninterrupted when we understand that, our power and our strength isn't actually coming from us, it's coming from Krishna. He says something like that, and this is what happens when we surrender. It's like we become fully confident that Krishna can take care of us, and then he empowers us to the greatest degree as he reciprocates in the way that he does with his devotees. So I was thinking about that just now. It's a really nice definition. Maybe, I should go back and look at it, because Prabhupada puts it in a real poetic way. But
that was nice. Thanks, Prabhu. If we're acting with knowledge, then knowledge being, Krishna breaks down. He gives kind of a categorical breakdown of the different kind of transcendental knowledge, which is knowledge of the self, knowledge of devotional service, knowledge of Krishna. These are the transcendental subject matters of knowledge, And if we're acting with that knowledge, then there will be no obstacles in our way, because there'll be no doubt in what I'm doing. I know that I'm not this body, therefore I am capable of, and I know that the goal is to serve Krishna. Therefore, if I'm not this body, there should be no material impediment. There should be no impediments, from mind and body. I'm not my body, the soul. Serve Krishna. Let me hear what Krishna has to say, and then fully illumine on what you're supposed to do, and you know that you're not your body. So what's stopping you from doing it? Nothing, and you'll be very courageous in the execution of your duties, and very victorious, and it's all coming from the Lord, to the degree that we surrender to Him, and it's really nice because the devotee just glorifies the Lord. There's nothing higher to do. There's no one higher than Krishna, so there's nothing higher that we can, and we're not Krishna. So the best thing that I can do is glorify Him. I'll never be Him. Should give up the propensity, should give up the chase or the desire to want to try to do. It'll never happen. So the best thing then is to glorify Him. And the devotee just engages in glorifying the Lord, and the Lord also wants to glorify His devotee. So Jai Maharaj said a really nice thing. the other day he said that wherever there's the pure devotee and and Krishna and the Lord, there's victory. He kind of gave that he broke that verse down. It says Krishna and Arjuna, and he said Krishna and the pure devotee, Arjuna is the pure devotee, but Prabhupada and like that, other pure devotees, wherever Krishna and his pure devotees are, then yeah. So, as we're out of time, I think. Yes, Prabhuji, please.
About this point of surrender having a negative connotation, it's very much there. I was hearing some devotees speak recently, and they're talking about this point, and they kind of rebranded the word surrender as being forever open, or like forever openness. Because at some point we have some kind of openness to approach God, some intrigue, something, to go beyond ourselves and connect, but then we get confronted with the surrender. And it can be difficult. But, to always have this mood of always being open of what Krishna or Guru wants me to do, what they bring into our lives, it's nice. Just an interesting way of looking at the surrender in more of like a optimistic, mystical kind of way. Hare Krishna.
That's very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, ki jai.